This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Tuesday, TBOY Tuesday, November 5th. And today's pod is the best one yet. This is a TBOY.
The top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
Yeah, it is. It is election day. I voted, you voted, Jack voted, we all voted.
In fact, half of the country has already voted.
Oh, curious what we're thinking about voting? Well, Jack and I left our political thoughts on our personal handles of Instagram.
But it's a big day. Today's show is the best one yet. So Nick,
TBOY,
let's jump right into it.
3 stories. What do we got for the pod, Jack?
For our first story, curious what happens to the stock market on election day? It's actually huge.
So Jack and I will tell you how election day affects the whole economy. Spoiler, less beer, more selfies.
For our second story, this month, after the election, we're about to experience the biggest movie moment since Barbenheimer.
Wicked, Gladiator II, and Moana II all hit theaters the same week. It's Wiki Gladiator.
We gotta work on that. What's that called, a portmanteau?
It's Wiki Gladiator. We're rolling with it, Jack. We decided.
But in this movie story, we found the ultimate rule for creativity.
And it applies to everyone.
And our third and final story is the fastest growing running brand right now. It's Bandit Running.
But Bandit Running isn't copying Nike. Bandit is copying Hermes.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
Fantastic mix of stories. Love the mix today, Jack. Perfect mix.
Tonight, one of the great, albeit complicated, systems of democracy gets to work.
The U.S. presidential election.
Because there's only one office voted on by all 330 million Americans. President of the United States.
And who do we entrust to conduct the most important of our elections?
We trust ourselves. It's about you, me, our neighbors. We run elections together.
Jack and I jumped in TBOY style to our election infrastructure. And honestly, it's so amazing UPS would be impressed.
In the most recent nationwide election in 2022, we operated 94,793 different polling places in America.
And in those 94,793 polling places, there were 645,219 people, mostly volunteers, who ran the election with patriotism and coffee.
That's according to a report written by Congress every 2 years.
Jack, can you please repeat that for us over there?
Our elections are run by 650,000 Americans across nearly 100,000 different polling places.
Now, we don't have a central election authority because we divide that power across the states.
And within those 50 states, we also divide power across hundreds of counties and thousands of municipalities.
So, besties, you add up all those numbers and the result? The elections, they take longer.
And the fact that our elections take longer, that's not something to be suspicious about. It's something to be impressed by.
It's impressive, and yet trust in our elections is at an all-time low.
We think that's due to misinformation. So here's some information to combat that.
First, 650,000 of us are running this election.
Second, we have almost 100,000 polling places across the country where those volunteers are working hard.
But Jack, we should point out, what about the people who voted early? How do they fit in?
Glad you asked. In some states, workers get to count early votes starting this morning.
But in other states, they can't start counting those early votes until polls close this evening.
So just like 4 years ago, it's possible there's no clear winner decided tonight.
In fact, we're checking the numbers right now. It is so close, we probably won't have a winner tomorrow morning either.
Because it takes time to count all those votes.
So to all our dearest Yetis and besties out there, be patient, follow respected news organizations, and ignore the loudest person in the room.
This is our system. It's time to let it work.
It's beautiful. It ain't perfect, but it's magnificent. Jack, let's hit our 3 stories.
Nick, this is our second Election Day podcast. I'm honored to do it with you.
Jack, I can't wait.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. TBOY City on your list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, heading into the election, the economy is hot. But on election day, the economy is not.
Here's what Americans do with their wallets on the day they open their ballots.
Now, Yetis, you've been with us for a while. If you listen to this show every day, you know about the state of the American economy.
According to the data, it's the best in the world. But for many Americans, it doesn't feel that way.
Well, the economy is about to switch in a whole bunch of ways. But that switch actually starts today and we can see it.
Social media, the whole industry, is banning political ads after today.
They want to avoid the post-2020 misinformation epidemic that happened 4 years ago.
Another thing that starts today, election betting markets are going dormant.
It's going to be another 4 years until you're active again on one of these election betting apps.
And after rising 21% so far this year, stock markets today, they're in wait-and-see mode.
It's the best election year stock market return in the 21st century, but our big question was this: how does election day affect the whole economy?
To answer that question, Nick and I looked at the third quarter earnings season, which just finished last week.
And there was one quote we noticed that kind of said everything, wasn't it, Jack?
Political campaigns are bad for business.
Elections aren't good for business, besties.
The CEOs last week on their earnings call united on that one subject.
Now, the key here is something psychological. CEOs said that the negativity of political ads actually dampens consumer spending.
When the last thing you saw on TV was a politician saying the world is going to end, your head is not thinking about spending $3,000 on a new washing machine.
Yeah, honey, let's hold off on that Maytag.
Also, ironically, alcohol companies report dry sales in October before the election.
Hey, bartender, where do you stand on NATO?
No one's doing that right now.
According to Constellation, the liquor company that owns Corona and Modelo, they said the more contentious the U.S. election, the less Americans tend to drink.
Nick, I just whipped out my frequent flyer mile card. Over at airlines, nobody is flying today. And nobody flew last week, and nobody's flying this week either.
Delta says that revenue will shrink 1 percentage point this quarter because of the lack of travel this week and the week before and after the election.
United Airlines CEO said fewer people travel that week for obvious reasons.
Pro tip, besties, if you're at JFK right now, ask for an upgrade because you're going to get into first class today.
It won't be until tomorrow that consumers may finally spend again. In fact, we might even see pent-up splurging that we've been holding back the past month.
Honey, get the Maytag. I want that washing machine now.
And the only big corporate moves that have been happening right up until Election Day is in the debt markets.
It's kind of a nuanced exception, but companies have been issuing bonds before the election to take advantage of the calm before a potential storm.
Maytag actually likes the 6% interest rates right now, because who knows what they're going to be next week.
Oh, also, Jack and I can't verify this, but we're pretty sure T-Mobile, AT&T, and every telecom company is enjoying the political text messages.
Type stop to unsubscribe.
I got 23 of them in the last minute. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over in the entire American electorate?
The biggest wallet in the world is on the ballot today.
Yetis, there's a lot of talk about undecided voters, but the federal government has $6.75 trillion in undecided dollars.
The U.S. federal government spends more money than any other entity on Earth.
$6.75 trillion in that money.
Federal government spending actually makes up a quarter of the United States economy.
If our federal government spending was its own country, it would be the number 3 largest world economy.
Behind only the United States and China.
So who's in charge of where that money goes? Well, it's the president and our U.S. Congress.
How that money will be raised through taxes and how that money will be spent, both of those are decided today.
So, will we have a united government with Republicans or Democrats in control of both the White House and the Congress?
Or will we have divided government? Those are the enormous unknowns that are causing our economy to be on pause today.
Because today, the biggest wallet in the world is on the ballot. For our second story, this month, we're getting the biggest movie release since Barbenheimer.
Gladiator II, Moana II, and Wicked 2.
But Jack and I found the one Hollywood lesson that applies to everyone. But Jack, before we kick things off, Twizzler or hot tamales?
Neither. I'm going with my OG, the biggest basket of popcorn they have, with butter spread in the bottom and then spread again on top, plus the biggest Diet Coke they sell, refillable.
All right, well, the correct answer was Mike and Ike's. Yetis, we are less than 3 weeks away from the film industry's biggest moment of the year.
We're calling it Wicked Glada Moana 2.
Wicked Glada Moana 2. Yetis, because on Friday, November 22nd, 2 major films are hitting the theaters.
Gladiator 2 and Wicked.
And then, just 5 days later, the day before Thanksgiving, as Jack is still digesting all that popcorn, Moana 2 debuts in theaters.
Actually, I'm not digesting it. It's stuck in my teeth. so it's digesting me.
Yetis, this is the biggest movie Menage a Trois we have ever seen.
This is a sequel spectacular, the likes of which we've never seen.
And the biggest moment for the American cinemas since Barbenheimer.
Gladiator II, Moana II, and Wicked.
Wiki Gladiator II. And theaters are expecting their best quarter in nearly 2 years.
If you're seeing one of those three, tell us which one in the comments.
But Yetis, this is what Jack and I found fascinating about this story. Jack, what is special about these three specific movies?
Each could be a box office hit because each one has built-in existing audiences.
They each have biffs, built-in fans. And that is huge for any product release.
Let's kick it off with Moana. Every parent in America is going to take their kids to Moana 2.
Jack, can you share the wild statistics we discovered about Moana?
According to Nielsen, Moana 1 was the #1 most streamed movie of 2023 with 775 million full viewings. That's crazy.
And Wicked has been on Broadway for 21 years, grossing $1.6 billion, which puts it #2 behind The Lion King.
Wicked, the story of the Wicked Witch of the West before Dorothy arrives in Oz.
I mean, Gladiator was a commercial and critical success. Are you not entertained, Jack?
It was the #3 box office movie in the year 2000, and it won Best Picture. And I quote it every single day ever since.
Range is good, Jack. But besties, director Ridley Scott of Gladiator calls Gladiator II the best film I've ever made.
Which makes me want to put on a helmet and go into the Coliseum right now.
Jack, I already got one ready for you. But Yetis, there is another thing that Ridley Scott said that Jack and I think applies beyond the movie industry to all businesses.
And that innovative thing he said is our takeaway.
You will be entertained. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies doing anything creative?
Tell me the film in 2 sentences.
Yetis, if you want to make a movie, you need to convince someone like Ridley Scott to make it or fund it or do it. And here is Ridley Scott's advice.
Tell me the film in 2 sentences.
Tell me the film in 2 sentences. Besties, if you're working on something creative, it must have at its core a surprising and interesting story that is tellable in 1 or 2 sentences.
You might be working on a product. It might be your pitch at a job interview, or your pitch to a venture capitalist to invest in your startup.
Honestly, it could be any kind of pitch. And Jack and I, we've actually heard this 2-sentence advice before, haven't we, Jack?
We used it to describe and market our new series, The Best Idea Yet.
Yeah, the best idea yet. We said it's the untold origin stories of the products you're obsessed with.
Yetis, Nick and I share this advice with entrepreneurs. Hone the thing you're working on into its 2-sentence essence. And those 2 sentences better be compelling.
Besties, if you can't fit the 2-sentence rule, then your story needs some rethinking. Hey Yetis, if you're a bestie, take a sec and hit that subscribe button.
And like this video while you're at it. If you leave a comment, by the way, we'll read it.
For our third and final story, the hottest brand in running right now, it's Brooklyn-based Bandit Running.
Bandit is applying the Hermes fashion model to your morning jog.
All right, Jack, New York City Marathon, greatest day of the year. First place, who was it? What do we got, man?
It was a Dutch man who finished it in just over 2 hours.
Okay, but also the last runner to cross the finish line of the marathon. Who we got, man?
I love that the New York City Marathon celebrates the last person to finish, because that's quite an accomplishment too.
Mario Bellini, 74 years old of Italy, finished in 13 hours, better than any other 74-year-old we know.
There was actually 2 runners with injuries who finished at 10 p.m. The New York City Marathon lets you finish as long as you need.
Brings out the best in people. But Yetis, the biggest splash at the New York City Marathon, it didn't come from a person, it came from a brand.
It came from Bandit, the running brand that's cooler than you.
Like it's streetwear meets athleisure in a single running company.
Bandit is like Lululemon and Supreme had a baby.
Yeah, Jack, it is.
But that baby can run a 5-minute mile at Fashion Week.
Jack, honestly, I'm looking at their sweatshirts right now, and I don't know if this is inappropriate, but I kind of want to make out with them. The sweatshirts.
As long as you don't say lick, then it's kosher.
I kind of want to lick them. But Yetis, this company, Bandit, you may have heard about them from the Summer Olympics when they did that unsponsored project thing.
That's right. Bandit gave 35 Olympic athletes all black logo-less gear to show support to these athletes who aren't famous enough to get like a Nike deal.
But here's the key to Bandit's branding. Bandit's run shorts and their sports bras, they aren't inspired by Nike. They're inspired by Prada.
For example, Bandit socks, they put the logo on the front of the socks, not the side. So they're more visible in Instagram photos or if you're encountering someone running in the opposite direction as you.
Yeah, it's not athleisure, it's fathleisure. It's fashion athleisure is what they've pioneered.
It was founded by two brothers from New Jersey and another guy, and they were all early employees at Jet.com.
Besties, Bandit is 4 years old, but their sales quadrupled last year.
They just raised venture capital money, including from the venture arm of DraftKings.
Now, Yetis, here's what Jack and I found fascinating about this story. You know, last week we covered Hermes, the $200 billion French fashion company.
It's the only luxury stock thriving right now.
And Jack, last week, what did we say Hermes' secret to success was?
It was scarcity. Because you can't buy one of Hermes' $10,000 handbags right now. You have to first join the wait list and wait for quite a while.
Well, Bandit has applied that same Hermes scarcity model, but they've applied it to jogging shorts.
At all times, a majority of Bandit's products are sold out, so you have to join a wait list.
I've been trying to get the 5-inch shorts for like 6 months now. Not possible, Jack.
I'd try 7-inch shorts if I were you, dude.
I like to show off the calves, but if you want to get first dibs on one of these shorts when they do come out, you got to join Bandit's $125 run club.
Just so you know, 7-inch shorts, they show all the calves you need, man.
Yetis, in fact, last week, the New York Times did an article all about Bandit, a full profile, incredible PR, amazing sales opportunity for Bandit.
But 80% of their products were sold out. That's how, scarce they're playing this.
Even at this incredible opportunity, they couldn't sell more stuff.
Now, some runners accuse Bandit of being elitist. Bandit says they're just happy to push the envelope.
But if you did have Bandit shorts on for the marathon, you felt elite.
Not because of the scarcity, though.
Because of our takeaway. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Bandit Running?
Never underestimate the cup holder effect.
Yetis, the top reason runners choose Bandit, it's not just the logo, the feel, the vibe. It's the pockets.
Their pockets are perfect.
The New York Times referenced the word pockets 5 times in their article. In fact, Bandit engineered a sports bra and a short with 3 pockets each.
3 perfect pockets, because one holds your iPhone, one holds a credit card, and one holds your keys. That's exactly the things that a runner needs to hold on their run.
And that is the cup holder effect, when one small non-core detail determines the customer experience.
In cars, the most important thing customers care about are actually the cup holders.
With airlines, the most important things customers care about is the Wi-Fi.
And with Bandit, the most important things runners care about is the iPhone pocket.
In the sports bra. So it is wild, Yetis. But the main reason people love Bandit, it's actually for the perfect pockets.
So if you want to be the best sports apparel company, believe it or not, you need to be an expert in pockets.
And that is the cup holder effect in action.
If you got another great example of the cup holder effect, drop it in the comments.
Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for TBOY Tuesday?
The U.S. economy has been climbing back, but on election day, it's on pause.
Because the biggest wallet in the world is on the ballot.
For our second story, it's Wicked Gladiator Moana II.
I thought we rehearsed this, Jack. We rehearsed this.
It's Wiki Gladiator Moana II, and it's less than 3 weeks away. The biggest moment for movies since Barbenheimer.
And the Hollywood lesson for everyone, tell me what it's about in 2 sentences or less.
And our third and final story is Bandit, the hottest running short in your runners club. Their differentiator is their pockets.
Bandit is proving the cup holder effect in action.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, NVIDIA is now a member of the prestigious Dow Jones Industrial Average Stock Market Index.
The Dow was created in 1885, and NVIDIA joining means Intel is out.
Now, when Intel joined the Dow back in 1999, the Wall Street Journal described it as a new economy stock.
It seems like Intel is an old economy stock now, being replaced by NVIDIA.
And second, tech workers over at the New York Times went on strike yesterday. Bad timing or highly strategic timing, Jack, it sounds like.
Fortunately, the reporters and journalists at the Times are not involved in this strike.
So the reporters and the journalists will cover the election and all the news that is fit to print.
But if the website suffers some glitches, you now know why.
The IT guy is on strike. And finally, TGIF. Thank God it is Fridays. The restaurant chain is filing for bankruptcy.
While Chili's is booming, TGI Fridays is not.
With fewer people back in the office, there are fewer 5 p.m. happy hours, unlike 1996.
But TGI Friday's permanent mark on American culture? It's the flair required to be worn by waiters and waitresses.
It's not mandatory,
But it's encouraged.
but we'd appreciate if you wore it.
You see Jimmy over there? He's got 26 pieces of flair.
Hey, Jimmy! Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by Savannah Westwood from lovely Orlando, Florida.
The famous I voted sticker. It's an iconic mark to encourage civic pride and voter turnout. But who started that sticker?
Well, we had to dive in further TBOY style here, but the Phoenix Realtors Association of Arizona claims to have been the first to produce an I voted sticker.
However, the Miami Herald references I have voted stickers from a local Florida election even before then, in 1950.
But the most common sticker today, the oval with the flag on it, it actually goes back to 1988 by a company called InTab.
InTab doesn't just make stickers, though. They also make voting booths and voting machines.
Although they said their most fun thing to make is the voting sticker.
Now, I have voted. Simply, I voted.
Cut the have, it's cleaner. Yetis, you look fantastic today, and we'd love for you to do us a favor. Don't drop down and follow the show. Don't drop down and give us a review. And don't drop down and give us a 5-star rating.
Instead, just make sure you voted today. And if you know somebody who needs help getting to a polling booth, help them get there.
As always, besties, we'll be with you tomorrow. Jack, I'll see you there.
Can't wait.
And before we go, a happy birthday to Yeti Lily Young, turning 35 years old down in Miami, Florida.
And a big shout out to Dia Chakraborty, who drops a comment on Spotify every day. We read it every day.
Dia, we love seeing your comments. Thanks for being a bestie. And Cecil Santana Thevenin is turning 29 years old in Prosper, Texas, and she happens to be the queen of kindness.
Congratulations to Jake Contos in Albuquerque, who officially launched a hedge fund.
And Taylor Keller in Denver, Colorado is dropping off their ballot today, blasting TBOY in the AirPods while they vote.
Happy 2 years together to Katie and Anthony Prudencio in Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
And Eitan Oded over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey is celebrating the best birthday yet, just outside Philadelphia.
And happy birthday to Avantika Mira in Mumbai, India.
Longtime Yeti, fantastic bestie.
And to anyone else celebrating something today, make it a T-Boy.
Celebrate the wins.
This is Jack. Nick owns stock of Nike and Lululemon. I own stock of Intel and Disney. And Nick and I both own ETFs of the S&P 500.